again. Hi, friends. Welcome to week 17 of the year. It's April 27th, 2022. I'm Amy Cesario, a realtor in Denver, Colorado, and this is my weekly market update. For about the last 2 months, I have been bringing weekly numbers and stats, kind of watching what's happening in the market, not kind of, but actually watching what's happening in the market. I almost always give you a little weather update. So the weather update today is that it is beautiful. It's a little bit cloudy, but it should be 70 degrees today. It is the driest April that we've had since 1930 something, somebody told me yesterday. I don't know how your grass is looking, but mine is not looking good. So I'm going to actually get some water on it today. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's what I'm doing. So I hope you guys are having a fabulous Wednesday. I see that we have 575 homes or properties coming on the market. So those are coming soons. 575, that's more than we had last week. I was in New York last week. I don't know if you watched my video or not, but I was in New York. So I don't have my coming soon from last week. I can't remember that number off the top of my head. I feel like it was in the 300s, but 575 is a great number as we're watching each week. New listings. This past week, we had 1,819 new listings. Actives, 2,150 active listings. That's the highest we've been all year. Last week we had 1,671 come on the market, so we're 200 more. And last month we only had 1,978 active listings on the market, so 200 more than we did last week, which is a great sign. That means people are feeling confident to sell again. I have heard some stories about the interest rates making a difference for some of our buyers. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But in this past week, this is a big number. We had 3,323 properties go under contract or pending in the past week. That might be the largest number that we've seen yet this year, 3,300. So 1,800 came on the market, 3,300 went pending, and we still have 2,100 available on the market right now. That 3,300 is a big number. To me, that means that interest rates didn't slow people down. What it might have done, and I'm a little nervous to say this out loud, I'm going to think about this a little bit more, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking that the interest rates going up has accelerated our buyers. About a month ago, we were talking about hoping not to get to that 6% interest rate by the end of the year. And I think the reality is we are now hoping we're not going to get to that 7% interest rate by the end of the year. The interest rates are in the fives. At the beginning of March, it was right around the low threes, like 3.1, something like that. I can't remember exactly. But that many contracts going under that many properties going under contract in 1 week is a big acceleration from what we've seen. Because we've seen kind of a steady increase in new listings, and we've seen a steady increase in actives. The week before, we had 2,767 go under contract. So that's 600 more. And we only had 200 more come on the market. So interest rates are going to be a factor. I think everybody was worried that the interest rates are going to be a negative factor, that maybe homes wouldn't sell. But as I've been saying since the beginning of the year, the interest rates are not going to impact prices this year. What's going to happen is our buyers under 500 will be impacted the most. They will either drop off because they can't afford anything for their needs, or they will drop down in a price range, and then they'll beat out the people in the lower price range because they have a little bit more wiggle room potentially. That in my mind is what's going to keep happening all year. 2,100 homes on the market is still extremely low, extremely. We need to have 5,000 on the market, I think, for prices to ease up. I don't know what that magic number is, but I think it's got to be over 5,000. I don't know how we would figure out that number. If anybody's a statistician, that would be a cool number to know. We had 2,068 sell or close last week. 2,068 closed last week, and the week before we had 2,059, so essentially the same. And we're in the middle of we're towards the end of the month, so that would have been the middle of the month. Next week, I expect to see the solds up higher because, as we've talked about before, more people close at the end of the month than they do towards the middle and the beginning of the month. So that'll be interesting. Those are some interesting numbers. I forgot to message my one of my mortgage brokers. If one of my mortgage brokers is on this call, text me what the interest rate is, but I think it's just under 6%. And we know the feds are going back and talking at least 2 or 3 more times, I think, between now and the end of July. The anticipation is that the interest rates will continue to rise. So I'm not sure that I expected to see that happen, that maybe the interest rates would accelerate our buyers to get going and make a move now. I think what it tells me is if you are a seller and you're thinking about selling, it's still a great time, because to have that many buyers, 3,300 this past week, get out there and make offers, it's excellent. So let's keep that going. We are behind on our year-to-date stats, but again, I'm saying all of this kind of, if you're picking up here and you haven't been watching in the past, remember, we started out in January with the lowest inventory that we've ever seen, and then it was extremely low again in February. And the reason for that is not only the way market conditions are, but we have to remember COVID. In the January, we had that big Omicron. People couldn't make it to work. People were sick for a couple of weeks. Like, it really impacted everything. And it didn't impact our buyers as much as it did our sellers. We still had buyers trying to buy up everything that came on the market. That happened. We had more going under contract than we had coming on the market. I think we've had that happening all year except for 1 week maybe. So anyway, the buyer demand is still out there. What an interesting phenomenon. I can't wait. I haven't talked to anybody else. I pull the stats every morning around 9 o'clock. So I haven't talked to anybody about that number, but I'm wondering if that's what their buyers are doing. So next week I'll see if I can get a little bit more feedback from a couple of my other agent friends. Is that why we had so many people go under contract? That's kind of blowing my mind, but I'm happy to hear it. So what else is happening in the market? It's about, as soon as the weather gets nice here, we know people want to get out and look at houses. I do hear we are having a little bit of buyer fatigue out there. Once the weather gets nice, our Colorado, our Denver market picks up from now until mid-June. But come July, people want to go on vacation. August, people are normally on vacation, especially if they've got kids. So, but both the downtown market and the rest of the market gets a little bit more quiet in July. But I think this year, my gut instinct is we're going to have some of our buyers have buyer fatigue over the next month or two. I don't think it's going to last until July. I think maybe that increase in interest rates is going to push the buyers who would probably want to give up in 2 weeks, but their agents are telling them, please don't give up. You aren't going to be able to afford a house, which is potentially true. Or they're not going to be able to afford the house that they want. So my guess is the fatigue is not going to happen, or maybe be even as impactful. I wonder if it's even going to happen in July. So that'll be interesting. that'll be interesting to see. With our inventory this low, sellers, you didn't miss the market. It's here. This is typically when between now and June when you get the highest price through the year. So if you're a seller looking for the highest price, call me now. This is when you need to get your house on the market. If you are a seller who also needs to buy, if you are dependent on a mortgage, you want to be watching from now. Start now because the interest rates are going up. We are hearing that if the oh my gosh, sorry, I hate when I forget my words. If we have a recession in the economy, it's so weird when they're right there on the tip of your tongue. If we do have a recession, though, typically all of the recessions, almost all of the recessions, except for that last one, caused the interest rates to go down and did not affect the housing market negatively. Normally, a recession will help the housing market because interest rates will drop and it'll get a few more people back in the market. So when people are talking about a market crash over the next year or two, it's not going to happen over the next year or two. They've done everything over the last 10 years to make sure we don't have a market crash. And let me just give you like a scenario. Let's just say you buy a house tomorrow and the inventory that we have happening right now, it's so low, it is pushing prices up continually. Since last year, we've had a 20% increase in home values, average, that's over the board. And the year before that, it was real close to 20%. So let's just say you bought a house right now and somewhere along the line, you went into foreclosure. You didn't pay your house payment this year, something like that. The crazy thing about why 2008 won't happen this year is just exactly that. You won't go into foreclosure unless you just let it go, which would be silly because we're seeing such high increase in values. You should be able to sell your house for more than you purchased it for, even within a year. And that's not guaranteed, but that's the average of what's happening. So we shouldn't be seeing any crazy foreclosures that would cause a decline in values. Those two things just absolutely do not map out together. That cannot happen. I'm not suggesting you buy a house if you can't afford it. That would be, just don't do it. That's just misery for you and your family trying to help you and your friends trying to help you through it. Don't do that. But what I'm saying to you is I wouldn't be afraid to buy. And even if you're buying at a 6% interest rate right now, there are ways that you can do an ARM. With an ARM, you've got to have 20% down. But that interest rate, depending on if it's a 5, 7, or 15 year, those interest rates are much lower. And the lending keeps changing. So whether you are a self-employed person or you have, maybe your credit is not perfect, there are ways to fix your credit quickly or over the next 6 months. It's also okay to buy and then refinance in a year or two. Just because you have a 30-year mortgage, I don't know anybody in the last 10 years who thinks they're actually going to pay off that 30-year mortgage. So they're just remember, you're not locked into when you buy your house that is the interest rate that you're going to have forever. So it's continuing to be a good time to invest. And sellers, again, I mean, if you're wanting to do a move up, a move down, a move within the building. For instance, I had one of my listings at the Coloradan. A buyer from in the building was trying to either do a move up or a move down, and that happens a lot in condo buildings. Keep your eyes on those. It's a good time to do it, especially if you're moving within the building. Anyway, it's a good time. Time to be a buyer. Again, my name is Amy Cesario. I'm a realtor in Denver, Colorado. If you want to talk about real estate, I want to talk about real estate with you. My number is 303-995-3180. I hope that we can continue this conversation. I do these live videos every Wednesday at noon Denver time, and then I post them to my feed, or whatever it's called on Instagram. I also today recorded this on another camera, so I will post these on YouTube, I hope. I mean, I'm kind of techie, but I'm not like super techie, so cross your fingers that I can do it. But I am learning some really interesting things about this wacky market that we don't know exactly how to predict, when to predict. None of us have a crystal ball, but by watching these numbers this closely, I can give you a lot of good tidbits about what's happening and what I think is going to happen. And then you're going to form your own opinions. And whether you agree with me or not, I would love to hear from you, whether it's a comment once I post this video live, I would love it. A heart, a like, whatever happens. And then I'm going to also put it on, like I said, on YouTube. So at least I hope I am. So wish me luck on that. And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. We talked about the weather in the beginning. It's going to be 70s for a few more days. Get out in that sunshine. We know that can change in a heartbeat here in Colorado, and we're wishing for some more rain. And a few more people jumped on, you guys. I'm really glad to see you. Thank you, and I will talk to you soon.